Yes. So I will be quick. Again, thank you and welcome to this meeting. As usual, I'd like to mention our new employees into the company. From the Horizon Valley, I'd like to acknowledge Clarissa Gant. From the west side, Misty Valenzuela has rejoined us, PTA. And from the east side, Jay Olivares, we send up, is a team leader. Crystal Quintana, only because she's in a new position as a case manager, and that is important. Thank you, Crystal. And let me not forget Armando del Razo. Where are you? There you go. Co-team leader for the east side. And last but not least, and I mentioned it last time, but I want to welcome her again, is Stephanie Acosta, PTA. Thank you, guys.
Okay, I'm going to explain why he's up here. We want to thank the company, first of all, Sylvia and I, for giving us the privilege to go to the private practice section conference in Orlando. It was a whole week event, and we weren't here to help, but we had an incredible privilege to meet this young man. He was a keynote speaker, and I really want to leave his picture up because it's really his words. Sylvia and I are bringing him back to El Paso because we sat down one night after our conference and we said we have learned so much, and really felt privileged to be at a national level. And we said, how can we take this back to El Paso and make it impactful for not only us as staff, but for our community. So when I speak of some of the components, he was the one that was speaking and shared this with us. First of all, I do want you to know that he has been recently recognized as a list of best keynote speakers, along with Bill Gates, Tony Robbins, and Colin Powell. And those are big names. He began the conference by telling us, he says, whether you all like it or not, he says, customers are changing much faster than companies are. Customers have, through social media, have the ability to go to another company. And if that company doesn't reinvent themselves, they lose that customer before you know it. He says, challenge yourselves to think differently. Get uncomfortable about what it's like to change. Because if you don't get uncomfortable, it's just going to happen before your eyes. The future is changing before you, so be a future maker. Be responsible for making that future happen to you. As that future happens, both in your personal life as well as your professional life, and here as an employee, it's going to happen anyway. So you either make the future happen for you, he said, or sit back and let it happen to you. And when you take that type of position, then you don't have control and you don't participate in part of that process. So he says, let it happen. It's happening. Make the future happen to you. He told us to be fierce about wanting to adapt and to thrive. He says, companies are having to thrive. You're no different. Your industry is absolutely no different. So if you don't adapt and you don't thrive, you're not going to make it in any industry, especially in the customer service industry. Elevate your patient experience for you, because that's what you all sell, and take your practice to that next level. Your goals, and you speaking to us as leaders, he says your goals as leaders is to embed in your employees what it's like to give service. Tell them that they must have their radars on every morning, have their antennas on, to look for the needs of the customer and create a magical moment for them. He says when you greet them with a warm and sincere greeting. Let it show and reflect in your face. He says anticipate the unexpressed needs of your guest. We, once a month easy, you get a guest that comes to our door, because a customer and ultimately a patient who is just upset, period. No matter what you do or say, but keep your radar on. anticipate your unexpressed needs. He says, for those of you who are either married, and we've been in relationships, you can anticipate the need of someone in a relationship. We should be able to do the same thing for our customers, the same thing, without having to ask. And then when you say goodbye, don't just say goodbye. Express such a fond farewell to them every single time that you see them. And he gave us wonderful experiences. Probably the one that stands out to me is the Starbucks one, where he had just gotten the news that his father was diagnosed with cancer, and had to catch the airplane shortly before Christmas. He says, finally he told his mom, I will be there. Got an airplane flight on Christmas Eve, and in the airport Starbucks, he says, and for them it's all about customer service, making sure that they make that connection. He says there was the happiest lady ever on Christmas Eve. And one of the words that he asked her, why are you so happy? And she says, because I'm here to pour happiness. And he says, do you have that memorized? And she says, no. Anyway, as they were talking and she prepared what he had ordered, at the very end she said, goodbye, and come back and tell me how it went with your family. And sure enough, as he was coming back, she happened to have been there. And he says, you're back. How did it go? She knew about that customer connection. And he says, I have never forgotten. And at the very end, he showed her up there. It was a little Filipino older lady with her Christmas hat on. And he wanted us to remember that story. He says, because it was about the connection that she made with me. And it will always be etched because of what I was going through in turn. He says, and I'm supposed to be a well-renowned keynote speaker, but I was hurting at the time. So the patient experience is the new brand for companies. That's what companies are doing. They're all of them, including us, we're trying to find ways, how are we going to make our patient's experience just a little bit better. In 2019, 89% of business leaders believed that their customer experience will be their primary basis for competition. Boy, Sylvia had it in her notes, I had it on mine, and I said, I guess it's making it to El Paso. We have to know that. We've made a commitment as leaders that the customer's experience is going to have to be first, because that is where the entire business world is going. So map your patient's experience, that's what he's asking us, throughout their entire time. Brand their experience. How do you, as a worker, decide to show up to work each morning? The manner in which you show up is going to impact the experience that that patient's going to have. How does your face look when you walk in the room? How do you see the routine just unveiling among your coworkers before one of your customers comes in? Are you so focused that you didn't even acknowledge anybody around you? Mornings matter, he said. Set yourselves up for success. Set your coworkers up for success. There's a few of us that our spouses have been diagnosed with cancer in this room. I still remember having to still come to work that morning after he had told me about his cancer. But I had to, and I am sure my face said something. But we went on, and I found the right time to say it, and I got nothing but support. That should go not only for me as a clinic director, but all of the way to where our technicians are. Because our technicians leave their home in the same manner we do. I once heard a long time ago, it was in Toastmasters, don't ever be afraid to get out. He says, CEOs do it all the time. They got up with their hair all over, their eyes glued, in their pajamas. They had to go into the shower just like you do. Don't put yourself anywhere less than you. Everybody wakes up in the same manner. So make a difference in the morning. He also said, he says, I do this all the time now, and he includes it in other speakers. And I am very convinced that he's the one that wrote an article that I had read in Wall Street Journal. But one of the things that we want to share is he says, calm and centered over heart, be grateful or appreciative of 3 things. And then there's magic in the number 3. 3 things that you want to accomplish that day. That is how your morning should start every day. We're going to practice that in a little while, quietly, because he had us do it. But it's calm and center. Because when you center yourself, then you can begin to know how you're going to approach your day, no matter how you left your home. And your prayer or your thought is that your home would be safe in the manner that you left it, so that when you come back, you can pick up where you left. So look at your staff and your customers and how each are evolving through the progressive techniques and technology that's facing them. They're changing right before your eyes. Everyone is. So commit yourselves to create a transformation within your company. That was the assignment that he gave us to do as we went back to our prospective states and cities. Create a transformation. He says, because this is what's going to leverage your ability to capture employee commitment and employee value to elevate productivity and drive business growth and success. Everybody has to grow. Don't be afraid of all these key productivity indicators that we talk about all the time. That should just be part of us now, because we have to measure the growth of a company. He also said, in order for transformation to take place, initiate continuous reinvention of yourselves. Don't lose sight on focus on how to be helpful. The following thing he said is, be a culture of champions. Culture is simply the catalyst that empowers performance. Being supportive and being supported by someone else. I'm on this program right now where I learned, they made us go through a journey all over the world. And they said, what is the eating culture of every culture? But the one that stood out for me was France and Brazil. Now, I also saw this in Spain when I was there. But France has the highest intake of red meat and bread, and yet the lowest cholesterol level in their country. And one of the reasons that they believe that is that when they eat with mindfulness and with a lot of heart and in a social environment, and they make whoever they're with a part of their eating. Brazil does the same thing. They make sure that when you eat, doesn't matter when you eat, whether you eat at home with your family, out with your friends, it's always a social environment. Nothing is in a rush. And I saw that in Spain. When families would sit down, not once did I ever see a little child with their iPad. It just doesn't, you don't see that all the time. And the grandparents would go, their coats, it was cold, but they all go. And then they sit and they order all their food and they're all talking. It's all the conversation going on. So what I'm saying here is find out what your culture is. Do you have such a busy culture that you're always running? Or are you mindful about how the process is going and unveiling each day? Because if that's this culture, the second, you are a champion because you have the ability to be a catalyst that empowers performance. You have the ability to be supportive of someone else. And you have the ability to always have your coworkers back covered. You want to always make sure, if my coworker's coming to work with a hard time from home, I better pick it up and cover her or his back, and vice versa. We've got to do that. If we walk to the laundry room to start our lunch and we see that the load is finished, it'll only take you 2 minutes to transfer the load to the dryer and get it started, because the instructions are there. You can't mess up. So find a way to cover each other's back all day long, because in doing so, then we leave and we can continue our family life in the same manner that we left it in the morning, and hopefully in a very positive way. But it's okay for young moms, because I had some rough mornings many times. And so he told us, take action now, have a plan, and then one of the words that really hit hard for me, he says, be audacious. Don't be skimpy about it. Just go out there, make a difference, and take action. So that takes us to the beginning of our slide presentation. So we say goodbye to Mr. Locke. All right. Okay, you guys, I'm going to need your brain. We're going to take breaks just to get our brains going. We are going to follow. This is a keeper, this handout. Make sure that it makes it to somebody's permanent notebook in the clinic because we're going to have to refer to it all of 2013. Sylvia and I were talking about when the whole company started, and that's the way the stationery looked. Right, these little men back in 1985, and this is what we would write in our stationery. And we've come a long, long way. You know, the help of Margot always keeps consistency. Thank you. In everything we market, we remain to be very strong. El Paso Therapy Services. We drop the ink. In 2020, it's going to be about understanding human connection and how we root ourselves, how we will root this within ourselves. This is where we're very, very comfortable with other things that are happening in our company. We've made a long stride on metrics, which has really pushed all of last year. But this coming year, it's going to be human connection. We're going to be able to cultivate the human connection when we reach out to our customers who become our patients, because we first understand and embrace the value within us. If you do not understand how much you are valued or how much you value yourself, the process can begin. And supervisors, I'm here to tell you, you have to be perceptive about this. Do you feel that your subordinates, all your staff members, truly understand that they have value in our company? And that's something that we really want you to focus on throughout the year. How many times we have come to work and we know that a coworker is going through some hard times. Just because that coworker has happened to mention it to one, we've got to be there for each other, so that regardless of what's going on, they see the value within themselves in order for us to be able to give value to our patients. So the value within you is the catalyst of being able to give our patients value for the service that they receive. Ultimately, we're able to inspire and to nurture the human spirit and provide them with a remarkable experience. And that's what you want. You want that experience that they're going to go talk about. We want to cultivate and foster a culture amongst ourselves within each one of us that empowers performance by being supportive and supporting each other. You all, this has been researched extensively, and when it made it up to conference, we felt like we had to bring it back to you, because it really indicates that the empowerment really comes from being supportive and supportive of each other. That always we have each other's back covered no matter what. So it takes us to a concept that we want to introduce, and that is what we call the value stream. The customer starts right here, and we chose to stick to the word customer. In one of the courses that I took, it says, well, they're all patients. Why do we call them customers? It says because customers have a choice to go where they want to go. And he says, and you all need to know that a prescription is really only a ticket into a clinic. They can go into any clinic they want. So on the outside over here, they are a customer. And so if 89% of the businesses are really looking at how they're going to brand themselves to get that customer in, then we chose to do the same thing ourselves in 2020. So we come up here and because what we were taught is each customer will touch these sections along their way. No matter if they stay with you one day or if they stay with you for 8 weeks, they touch each of these parts. Hold on, let me look at my notes because I don't want to miss something. I'm going to give you an example of each of these parts. Just very briefly, we're going to be expounding on this time and time again throughout 2020. External marketing is truly everything that Margot does for our company. And you all, external marketing is physicians and her. She wants to make sure that we're aware who those physicians are and what relationship we're going to have have with them, continue to have, and for those, continue to have the relationships that we have with some physicians, and how we're going to cultivate a strong relationship with others that we don't have. So that is a big, big thing here. Plus, she makes sure that everything that goes out externally has our company logo on it. The next thing is human resources. Is that yes, Sylvia can go out and advertise, but when we bring that person in for an interview, we're all committed to making sure that we bring in someone who's going to be an asset to the company, that they're going to bring value to us, that we're going to be able to sit down with them and say, if we were here 2 years from now, what would you have liked to have seen happen? And that when we carefully listen to them, we say, I've got to do everything I can to make that happen for this person because I like him and I want them to join our company. And those are things that Sylvia's committed to doing as we bring in people, no matter what. These are questions that I believe all team leaders should be asking whoever you're interviewing, the technician. Because if you sit them down and say, where would you like to be 2 years from now? You hopefully want them to say, I want to go to PT school or PTA school, or I'm going the nursing route. They want to be somewhere. Because PT technician positions are limited in our company. There's nowhere out other than if they go to PTA school or become a team leader. So you want to hear those kind of things during interviews. And we're committed to teach you higher levels of interviewing skills. When the customer then trails through that stream and falls right here, darn, that smile better be good. You better learn how to look at their unexpressed needs and say hello to them, because you want that kind of experience with them. You want to be able to connect. All three of you do this. I've seen it, so we're very proud of you. Is that I have seen all of you. You can literally be on the phone and you can make the most precious eye contact with the person that walks in. You'll mention, but you made that contact with them, and their experience here becomes vital. Sylvia will be preparing what we've endorsed as leaders, what they call a welcoming package to patients. So it's going to change just a little bit. Then you go to the clinic, and the clinic is two major sections. It's your physical therapist. When I say physical therapist, it's PT, PTA, and then your PT technician. And this is powerful, equally as much as the other parts. And then ultimately, they hate to have to pay those co-pays that are high to us. But we can't minimize our value. We have to tell them, yes, and those are insurances that they choose to buy, and then you need to choose. So work around it. Don't try to force them to come for 24 visits that Dr. Aladika likes, and $40 copay. That's not going to happen. And then number one, and then if your clinical testing shows, I can do this in 8, go for it, or 12. Because this is where then Sylvia's team has to get stuck in trying to collect something that they have forgotten about. And then lastly, internal marketing. That's all of us. And we're going to spend so much time on this in 2020. So in the course of our patients' time with us, they touch each part of the stream. And we're committed to making that stream just as seamless as possible and have them enjoy the entire journey with us. So our commitment for each employee is to embrace the strong value that they have to offer, to establish a growth mindset amongst ourselves. Don't underestimate your ability to grow. Please establish that within yourselves. To foster your willingness to explore unknown areas of development within your position. You all know what you need, or how you would like to grow. Be willing to do it, and we want to foster that. We want to encourage it as a company. To strengthen each employee through a higher level of knowledge. So pushing continuing education still. We're pushing growth, group facilitation discussions. We haven't had this a lot, and we're going to introduce that at different levels. Come in, we're going to have you all do a facilitation group discussion and move us towards that higher level of understanding. We're also going to move towards understanding additional key operation indicators. So if you all hear us say, these are our new KOIs that we're going to be using to continue the company's success. I wrote this because one of the speakers quoted him as, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So, and I'll quote Angie Phillips, who was one of our consultants about 3 years ago. She said, you can look at all the numbers you want, but if they don't tell you a story, you've wasted your time. If they don't tell you a story about your company, you have completely wasted the entire collection data time. So know why you're collecting data. It has to be collected anyway, but that's what makes a company grow. We all begin with a perception, and once we review and understand data and allow it to tell you a story, it changes your perception and allows a more open way. But unless you're willing to say, why the heck are we having to measure this indicator? Unless you're willing to open up your mind, you're not going to be able to create a change in your perception. You're going to stay stuck, and you're the one that's going to stay stuck, because we all have to move forward in it. So together we reflect our brand, and one of the brands that we decided to do, because 89% of the companies are doing it anyway, is for our patients to have a remarkable patient experience throughout our value stream. So that value stream is going to be just echoed all the time, continuously throughout. So just a fun trivia that they gave us. It was a grid, left side and on the bottom part as to would I want to go there and am I willing to spend the time there. So what people valued most in their customer experience and say it's worth paying more if the areas were convenient, and that took the top part here on the grid, friendly service, knowledgeable service, and easy payment. But the biggest circle is efficiency. So the one that was way down here was charitability. So take it for what it's worth. It was a statistical study, but these are the ones that made it to the very, very top. So as critical as these are, look how important efficiency is. We have a culture today that wants things fast. They don't have a lot of time. So give them convenience, friendly service, knowledgeable service, easy payment. Make that just a standard, and then make everything as efficient as you can for them, because they're going to go somewhere else. All right, so let's do the hand over heart part. It's a little bit. So what he had us do is we all stood up, so you stand up, and you're going to place your right hand over your heart. And you can close your eyes if you want to, you all, and you can keep them open. But I'm going to give you, I want you just to spend a few seconds just to actually feel your heartbeat. Okay, if you can now, the next thing is just think of 3 things you're grateful for. And now 3 things that you would like to accomplish today. Okay, you can sit down. Home today is calm and centered, see and sleep, and handle work. And then think of your 3 and 3. The 3 is carried over so much, especially in interior design. 3 is so much. So be with Christians, 3 of us. So lots of good things on handle heart. Okay. So let's go to compliance now. I wanted to put this right here because we, the professional staff, the physical therapists, and the OCs, we think we there again, but we're gonna have another follow-up meeting December 10th. So I just need to roll it out today, but don't worry about trying to understand it all, it's too much. We're gonna then break it down in December into further components. It's just absolutely too much to soak up. All right, some regulatory and legislative updates for 2020. I will always tell you why I brought this one back to El Paso, okay? Because there's a lot that was talking about home health and SNF, but we don't do that. That's not our area of specialty. We do outpatient services and outpatient orthopedics. So if I tell you this, I'll connect it to where we're going into the future. A lot of us wanted to know last year what's a telehealth status. AMA, remember, that's the American Medical Association CPT code. Even though they established the CPT code already, and that was done last year, legislation hasn't allowed the health system to use it. So finally now we're seeing legislative issues are beginning to arise, and so we anticipate more activity in Washington, D.C. The House as well as the Senate have a bill out now. Now, we know how things are going in Washington, D.C. I have no idea when it's going to go to the next level, but expect it in one of the big acts, because usually when there's an act that's going to be unveiled, they'll squeeze in a few little things such as that are health related. That's the way it's been historically for the last 25 years that I've been following it, so we'll be APTA is really doing an incredible job of staying on top of how the House and the Senate bills are being created, and then who has the power to submit them through. So we anticipate that PTs are going to be ready for reimbursement in the telehealth services. So get yourselves ready, because automation-wise, we're going to have all the equipment to assure that that's occurring. And when it's ready, we'll unveil it ourselves. All right. Oh, the next thing, dry needling. Sorry for that. Dry needling codes. So AMA has produced two dry needling codes. They come out of the 2000 series. The 2560 is without injections to one or two muscles. He did a Detroit, Michigan reimbursement, because every place in America has a value, what they call the geographic index, the GIPSy, that gives us either pennies less or pennies more than, say, Houston, El Paso, California. So Detroit, Michigan would be paying $27.45 on that one, and if you did an injection without fluid for 3 or more muscles, it would give you $40.58. So do you think we're going to keep pushing dry needling certification? Yes. For all the new physical therapists that are coming in, I think that is really worth it. And based on how I see my colleagues talking, that's one extra tool that they have, and it's being used and starting to fall into what we call that gold standard of service. So they are recommending right now that we should not use it, because the 20 series is for the surgery / musculoskeletal system introduction or removal of classification. That's where the orthopedic surgeons all hang out right here, and surgeons. So CMS has not said, we feel you are skilled to do it in the rehab medicine section, and therefore we're allowing you to cross over and do it. So she recommends that these codes be used carefully regarding insurance reimbursement. So Lydia, you would have to, if the therapist insists on wanting to use it, you'd have to get pre-approval, because you will not get reimbursed. So just continue to build the way you were trained in your classes. And so that's so our profession's really, really moving in a whole different direction when it comes to the way the American Medical Association looks at us. We're also still very blessed to have Helene Fearon in the editorial panel, which she continues to be the only non-MD in the panel. Okay, on Medicare Part B deductibles. So these are the new deductibles. Physical therapists, January 2nd, when your patient comes in, they first have to, if you're the first ones that they're seeking medical services, they have to give you $197 first, and you know they're not going to want to do that. So you just refresh all your memories, because we're giving them a valued service. Find a way that you're going to collect that. We're going to make sure that all OCs have a plan down pat on how to collect it, because that's the 2020. On the soft cap, KX modifier, it is now, you can bill services up to $2,080 before you have to start putting in KX on your documentation. So remember this one thing, the threshold will always be 3,000. That remains. Beyond this, the amount, beyond this amount, manual medical review may occur. So I'm going to give you a really important concept. They were really saddened by the statistics of 2017. So many physical therapists across the entire country, they're so afraid of the 3,000 right now that 3,000 comes and they stop. So when CMS reviewed all of the billing, because they review everything from billing and they have access to quick data and conversion of data to tell the story, they're saying across America, the elderly adult does not really need more than $3,000 worth of services. So let's not give, let's keep cutting Medicare services down and down. The 3,000 simply means we want to cap it. You can go beyond it. It's not saying that you can't, especially if they had a fracture in the beginning of the year and then a total knee at the end of the year. They're definitely going to go for 3,000. But you have to write down why you're seeing them. You have to just have medical justification. It doesn't mean anything new for us. We know how to do that documentation. Because after 3,000, for example, Novitas for us here in El Paso, they applied for a huge multi-billion-dollar contract with CMS. And CMS said, we will give you all of these billions of dollars for you to manage Novitas for the region, the Southwest region. I mean, it takes about 5 states, I think, Novitas. But they said, we hold you responsible for doing what we call a manual medical review, a random one, anytime that case goes beyond 3,000. So it doesn't mean that your case is we didn't get a single one last year, right, Sylvia? So, and they're required by law to do it. So it's there, don't be afraid, and if your chart gets, just take pride in your documentation. And ask your colleagues, especially those of us who've been hanging out for a longer time in our profession, we'll give you tips on how to, or tell us to read, can you read it for us? Because we're there to help you all do a good one. Okay. The ABM form, the only thing that I did learn this year is that there's only one form that's available on CMS website, and that form cannot be used with other carriers. It is solely CMS, and that's for traditional Medicare patients. You cannot revise it, reinvent it. That's a form that is a CMS form, and they indicate that you cannot revise it, and that's the only form that you should use and apply only to traditional Medicare. Let's go to the next one, and this is now the Medicare updates regarding the PTA and OTA modifiers that are effective January 1st. All right, here I definitely want you to stand up and breathe, because this is a whole other subject. So stand up just for 1 minute, everybody. Oh, okay. Somebody wants to go back. It's okay.
Refresh it, and it's going to be right there.
That's all I have to do. When it says 10 minutes left, just put it in because I'm Christmas.
pasa.
I'm waiting for things.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get to the check and see if it's, like, wait, what's he like to do? Let me figure it out. I can't, you know, again, people around. How, they're my we don't know her. I know, right? Yeah.
Right, yeah, he's not coming. He's coming and
Yeah, he told me like,
he visits it. It was unexpected. It was understood like he's not coming. To be related to you.
Yeah, I want to go take a tour. Big buzz 2 months ago is PTAs are being laid off of CF units, what's going on. It's just everybody's getting ready for all the legislative changes that were coming in. They're very saddened up at the conference that businesses literally work off of laying off and bringing in instead of adapting. So that's one thing that we really are committed is staying on top of legislative changes so that we can adapt to the changes without feeling like we have to lay people off. And so this has a financial impact, but we're ready. You know, they're cutting us left and right from everywhere we go, but we're ready to face it. So January 1, if you work in a physical therapy private practice facility, in a SNF unit, home health, outpatient hospitals, rehab agency, and that's us right here, or CORFs, comprehensive outpatient rehab facility. If you do that, you will need to have the PTA or the OTA. In my case, I'm going to move this whole lecture with just using PTA because we don't have occupational therapist assistants. So a PTA, when we close a chart, we're going to be required to do a CQ modifier. And the OTs will have to use a CO modifier. Somebody says, the speaker said, please don't ask me why we didn't get a P, because they got to know. But that's just the way Medicare chose to put it. So he says, I don't know the answer, and trust me, he says, we hang out with it a lot. So the modifier is going to denote when outpatient therapy services are furnished in whole or in part by a PTA. Story, a little bit of history. It all came out, remember I tell you things get snuck in acts? So in the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018, something good came out of that, which was the cap was removed because it was getting, they were putting the cap every single year. To now, this only applies to Medicare traditional, and CMS will complete 2 years worth of data review. Now you say, wait a minute, well, what about the maps? I'll talk to you about the maps in a little bit, but when it comes to the rule, the Medicare traditional, and that's why when you all do a Medicare patient, you look up on your screen, you'll have it there. Lydia does that for us, and all of the case management staff does that for us. So we know when we have a Medicare traditional patient. Literally, they will use 2 years worth of data to review to determine whether they're going to continue it or not. That is their position. There is going to be a payment differential of 85% based on the Medicare physician fee schedule that it begins 2022. So although we're required to do it January 1 of 2020, they won't start taking money away from us. And that's if they choose until 2022. Now, except for MAPS to adopt this ruling in 2020 when CMS, expect MAPS to do this. It has been my experience that, remember, MAP is a private company who has a contract with CMS. It's not traditional Medicare. And so in their contract, they can make any rule they want. That's why Lydia's brain is like divided into, how many? 58. You know, it's just, they make their own rules. Sylvia and her decide which contracts we're going to sign and which we're not. And we have to start memorizing. This one wants utilization review, it's Evercore, and it just, they can make up their. We anticipate, because this has been done in the past, is they're not gonna spend any dollars on figuring out if they can have a 15. They're gonna let the federal government spend the dollars, and then they're gonna say in 2020, and we adopt the Medicare methodology. And it's very easy. The federal government already spent all of the 2 years worth of research to determine how it's gonna be done, and logistically, and they just adopt. So be ready to get on the bandwagon in 2022 and just have a lot of things radically change on us. And then we'll be ready. We are ready to be on that wagon. So the recommendation right now that they're giving us at the national level is to limit co-treating, and you can understand that a little bit more today, but more in December. So EPPTS's procedures, after you sign or co-sign your note, and you proceed to billing, you will add a CQ modifier to all applicable CPT codes. And you're probably saying, what do you mean, Joy? What does that mean? So in December, we're gonna have screenshots of what it looks like, because Sylvia still needs to meet with Optimus. Sylvia and Lydia, her whole team needs to meet up with Optimus in addition to Armando. So we need to see exactly how they're gonna do it, so that we now then tell you in December, okay, when we go to billing, and we come over, we're going to learn where to put the CQ modifier. All right, so kind of a billing scenario here is the PT, if the PT and the PTA together provide the entire treatment service, this is for hospitals especially when you're doing a gate, no CQ modifier is required. Wound care does this a lot. You have to have 2 people just at all times to complete the task. And many times you know. When a PTA provides the entire treatment service by themselves, which is really common in our practice, PTs who co-sign that note have to put a CQ modifier in every single CPT code. When a PT provides the entire treatment service by themselves, no CQ modifier is required. And when a PT and a PTA provide co-treatment services together during the episode of care for that day, but PT goes in for a little while, leaves, and the PTA takes over. That is what I'm talking about right here. At that time, we apply what we call, and I want to quote the words, because if you happen to see this word, don't be afraid, de minimis. It's an Italian word for, at the minimum, this is what you want to consider. For every 15-unit code that the PTA is there, you have to put a CQ code. And to make it even more complicated, don't forget the 822-minute rule. So, we'll work through all that in December. We're not going to leave you by yourselves. We're going to have you bring your laptops and just experiment with it. So in this particular case, if a PTA sees a patient for 2 units of 97110 for 30 minutes and a PT 140 for 15, then the billing is going to look like this. 110 times 2 with a CQ and a 140 times 1 with nothing. And we'll experiment with it. So it's a little muddy right now for y'all, but we want to wet your toes so that it's not a shock in December. Just kind of get you guys going. Okay. I don't know, it didn't come out. It's okay, we'll fix that. We'll just leave it. Monica, don't worry. We'll fix it. The merit-based, I think, does it come out in your handout?
Yeah,
Oh, good. Okay, this is the MIPS update. So lots of MIPS is still going on. It is like active across the country, but we do not qualify for MIPS still because we are a rehab agency. What they are advising us is to make sure that on an annual basis, you go into Medicare, and I believe it's Lydia's team that does this, if I'm correct. You enter the therapist NPI code. This happens to be Michael's code. I wanted to use it. And we need to check your status. And at the very, very end down here, it says the national provider identification does not have to claim data for this period. So we're going to download it and then we're going to keep it on file. There's no way did you qualify. So you all can do this on your own if you want to, but we as employers have to do it also. So we're going to always make sure that at no time. And that's because as a rehab agency, we're not required for MIPS. MIPS is all about going towards a value-based reimbursement. What we are required as a rehab agency is to up the ante on outcomes reports per therapist. And so in December, we're going to expand on that a little bit more. Okay. CMS's direction is towards payment by value, therefore facilities outcomes program is crucial, like I just said. EPPTS currently uses photo and direction will be to begin using photo for individual providers. We met with the photo people up at conference, and so she showed me on the screen exactly how an individual provider is going to look like. You all are going to do this on your own. You're going to have access to it all the time, and for all the for all the evaluations that you're doing, they're going to give you a time frame. You can look at yourself on a monthly basis or on a quarterly and see how you're doing. You want to be able to efficiently see the patient with a good outcome in the time frame that the database is recommending that you see it. To take a longer period is not going to make you look good, just period. So companies are, CMS is moving in this direction. What we want to be ready as a rehab agency is to quickly say, this is our outcomes report and this is what we're doing. So the future in 2020, anticipate for maturation of the MIPS program before CMS reviews and determines to continue or to stop it. Heather Smith, if I'm correct, Sylvia, correct me, she believes it's going to come to a stop because really, if CMS had their choice, they prefer to go into an alternative payment model instead of a MIPS model. They prefer to say, by the way, we've gathered so much data that if you see a total need, you should have it done in X amount of visits, and we're only going to pay you. That you choose to do 15 or 16 more or 6 less, it's up to you, but this is all we're going to reimburse you. And that's called an alternative payment model. This is where CMS wants to go. They cannot do that right now because legislation mandated that they do what we call, they didn't use the word MIPS, but a MIP principle. So they're looking at in the outcomes for every single patient across America if you are a non-rehab agency. So be ready for change. Physical therapists, all I can tell you is that we are now going on the new bandwagon of starting to look at ourselves from an outcomes standpoint and still using photo. So instead of looking, which I've always done, Monica and I oversee, we look at how your satisfaction is as a group, as one clinic. Now we're going to be looking at you individually. But you're going to see yourselves way before we see you. So where is it, Chilling? Or Monica. So, all right. Total knee replacements. Just want to tell you some of the shift that is occurring in 2020. CMS did put out a rule under 1717-S that ambulatory surgical centers can now do a total knee in their facility. So, you guys, can you imagine our mother, who's 86 years old, or 82, she goes into an ambulatory surgical center and she has a heart attack. So what's happening here is they're going to have to change their entire structure. CMS said they felt that there was a disparity in reimbursement. They were reimbursing hospital outpatient facilities much more than they were reimbursing ambulatory surgical centers for different procedures. So they just decided to go even across the board. And right now, if you work for an ambulatory surgical center, there's a lot of changes going on. So be patient. But you're going to start seeing that right there in 2020. And this is only for total knee replacements right now. All right. Let's take a break because this is a whole nother subject. So just stand up. I think my break is just to stand up because Yeah, 2022. Yeah, they'll take away 15%. So we'll be okay with 20%. We just want to know what's going to be our fight. She was recording this.
A little bit.
Oh, you're one of those?
Right to say that.
So, I went,
And then people are going to get afraid.
my car, I was still parked.
Like those total knee replacement places.
Oh, only because I went to
Just tell me. So if we stay right now, she'll finish at
Because the trick that hospitals did is they said, let us by license open regulations. Put four across the edge. Those are called. So they allow low risk.
15.
Pardon?
It's a loophole they found.
It is. They found it. We get quoted
This should be canceled every once in a while.
They're gonna have to make it. They're gonna have to. Everyone's going to. I feel sorry for corporations because remember working for a hospital, I'm done with it. If they don't tell you how to do it, why can't you?
So I went to college.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go. Because
Okay, Charlie, you have 15 minutes.
because we only have 15 minutes.
And your
left
timer's always
for
on.
my section.
As soon as you start, I start.
Oh, Lydia, I want you to know I thought of you. And I went to class on this one. Okay, in terms of utilization management, just to teach you PTs more and more about this is everything that insurance do. They want to have a utilization management department in their insurance company in order to make sure that the utilization of services are so limited that they get to keep as much money in their pockets. So, I think that's a nice summary. So here we are. 2/3 of insurance carriers use third-party management companies, such as Evercore, OrthoMed, AIM Specialty. Do we use AIM? I haven't seen it.
Not yet.
They say
The
it is
first
ugly.
quarter. The first quarter of next year we will.
They said they're very ugly. I don't know what ugly means, but they are. But we don't like OrthoMed anymore. So just expect that you, as a therapist, are going to have to justify why you want to see a patient after your evaluation. And then you have to place the patient on hold. So this is where you have to say, be very careful with your patients, and you tell them in English or in Spanish, whichever language, with all your heart, just be patient. We have to do this. If you can wait up to 14 days, because they have the right to wait up to 14 days to then get back to you and say, yes, we've authorized you. Most of them come in 5 to 7?
With 3 to 5.
3 to 5, okay. But they can wait by law up to. And so these people are having to be real patient about having to wait until therapy can get initiated. It says, of course, of interest, payers are buying up at the stock market level, you and companies, you guys, as they have determined that they can save money through units. So they want to own them now. So that's a big, big shift in the economic circle up at the stock market level. PT reviews are here to stay. Evercore is getting stronger. Don't let it shock you. So if Lydia says, I'm sorry, if your case manager at the front desk forgets that you have to do one, which it happens, we're going to have to sharpen that up. Because if you forget, you have to either bring that patient back, you have to fill in all your work. It's going to stay strong. All right. On statistics and metrics that will matter most in 2020, repeating this because you have to understand that we're a company that has to measure data. I know it's hard, y'all, but I like that we started it in 2019 and we're just going to continue. It's only a story when I stand up here and just talk about numbers, but we're willing to gather the data, let it tell us a story, and then we know what to do with it. So EPPT has adopted various levels of indicators that we have used through whiteboard reporting to measure productivity, and we will be initiating the new key operational indicators. So if you hear us start saying KOIs, it's because we're introducing new ones which will continue to drive business growth. I have to tell you congratulations, Wayne. There were some companies, practices that haven't even started some of the regular KOIs and KPIs. KPI stands for Key Productivity Indicators. We're moving more also towards OIs. How does that operation, such as, okay. An update regarding operating metrics indicators. I thought I'd bring back to El Paso some good things that we are doing and some of the things that are moving us forward. The prescribed frequency ratio across the country is that 34% of your referrals are seen 3 times a week. Look at the shift charts right here. 55% of your patients in America for physical therapy are being seen 2 times a week for outpatient services.
So, what
Yes.
period of time did that cover? Like, for how long?
This is a 2017 and first quarter 18
Okay.
study. Yeah. And also remember, a lot of these states have direct access. So they have direct access to their patients. They're ahead of Texas because they are now seeing. So your customer and your consumer doesn't want to spend a lot of time with you. So this is the new trend. The ideal percentage of referrals being return business is 60%, a minimum of 45. So at Leadership, we decided to start right here for us. So we're going to start measuring, and it's critical that you get in the habit now, because we're going to start measuring that when you register your patients and you ask them who referred you, we have that available in Optimus. We've got to put that in because we're going to gather that data through Optimus to tell us how we're getting it. The ideal arrival rate was 92, so I'm really proud. It's very far from the 93 that our consultants told us. So making sure that we do everything to get us and keep us in that range. Big thing that we're going to introduce in December is the patient graduation discharge monthly audit. So for all your therapists, you're going to see how many patients you saw 2 months prior. Like in my case, I think, did you do yours already?
I'm still doing it for September.
I just did a September, just a trial run. So I saw all my patients that I saw in December and what was my graduation rate. And it was very embarrassing. So got to move one to active, but for me, it came down to a 36%. 36? Now, I want to tell you that because when you see your first graduation audit, we're going to have the team ready. All these are going to be ready for you in December when we meet. As much as I wanted to tell you that I knew my patient was going to be discharged because one was going to have surgery, the other one, the mother agreed, the other one said, I'm doing real good, I need to come back. I couldn't count that as a graduation. You just cannot. Because one of the things that they taught us there is you want a patient to graduate within the time frame that you anticipated at time of evaluation. You are so good at prescribing the needs of that patient that you know you need X amount of visits to successfully graduate them. That's who's going to talk about you. They're going to talk about you saying, I went to see Chole, she said I only needed 8, and she got me in at 8, and we finished. I did so well, I would go see her if I were. Versus my other patient, I went to go see Chole. My pain was so bad. She helped me a little, but she told me, God, let's go get some imaging. And then I called her to tell her the doctor decided that I need surgery. I'm heading to Maine for surgery. Can she talk about me? Another patient, Dr. Onadika, 24, she says, I have $60 copay, I can't afford it. So I said, how about 4? She said after the 3rd, she called and says, my son is doing fine. I can't count that. Because you know what she's going to tell? Oh, I went to physical therapy. I had such a high copay. I just called him and told him he's doing fine. They don't get to talk about everything I went through to narrow it down to 4. So it is all about outcomes, and it's about graduation rate. And it's painful because I was trying to stick them in, and I said no. So we called them other DCs. It's when they graduate from you within the time that you said, and the goals were accomplished. And so we're going to move in that direction in 2020. Not easy, but I think a good thing is that he had said that his new physical therapist, who had a PT Tech and a PTA, dynamic. She was a OSC certified. She's got her first report card, and she had a 40%. It was down. She was shocked. She says, "What do you mean? I thought all the..." And when he showed her metric and her graduation rate, she says she got on the ball, and by the next month it went up, and she was up 2. And I have the stat available, but I believe you're supposed to go for a 70-something. 72 is normal graduation rate. So we're going to be working on that. Clinical outcome measures per therapist, as we talked about already. Medicare wants to move up to 90% of its payments to value-based care, pursuing a standardized care process guideline. We talked about that. We want to do that now. The range of treatment per episode by diagnosis. So they're going to give you a diagnosis. This is what I feel you should get. That's all they're going to give you. So one of the comments at one practice, I think it was up in Oregon, said a key stat is the failure to progress. And so their therapists look at that. FTPs are failure to achieve a minimal clinical important difference, so that resulting in no graduation from the treatment goal. So we're going to be looking at, instead of looking at the failure, we're really going to push towards the success and study why you're not. I'm not calling mine a failure, but boy, it gave me just a very painful glimpse of what happened. No excuse that I had surgery. No excuse that I had to leave. Bottom line is that what am I going to do about the patients the 20 evals that I saw in September, and make them go up from 30 something. I almost want to forget that number, because Sylvia said, well, that one still is active because we were waiting for a progress report. So, but bottom line is we got to get this in to improve. What matters most in 2020 is behind the scene is preparing us for direct access. So, number 1, physician alliance becomes critical. A relationship and a relationship with them remain critical for all passive physical therapy services. This is our company. Margot works hard. Make sure she knows who you have strong alliances with. We're going to talk more about that in 2020. You're going to be able to say, hey, listen, I really have been nurturing this doctor through my notes or through whatever, but we really want that physician alliance. Number 2 is letting the public know through social media the value you offer as a therapist. And we're really kicking off on that. You will already see that if you guys want to go into the webpage, we've already brought one of the recommendations. And so now we have you by clinic. We have the West, and we have Amanda and Rudy and Misty, and then we go HV, and then we go East. So now we divided all the therapists. We want the community in your region to know who you are when they come see you, instead of having all of us there. So if you want to go into your website, it's already there. Thank you, Margot, for making that happen. Having the entire team fully understand the value stream of our organization, spent a lot of time there. Knowing how to measure your success as a therapist through the new KIOs. Knowing how you can tell a patient is ready for change is so crucial. If anything, this is probably one of the most important things for direct access. Direct access is saying, your patient has to be ready for a change when they walk in with you. Because the old model was, the doctor told me to come, so here I am. It's how are you going to? And start going from what we call close-ended questions to open-ended. Instead of saying how much do you hurt on a scale of 1 to 10, we still have to ask that question through a photo in some way because it helps, it's an indicator of progress. To what would your life look like if your knee was not, or your knee pain was not present? Now they have to talk, well, I could walk my dog better. And now you start to personalize and give that interaction. Now you're saying, one of the things that you can do to help me change is, and then move it through the process. Because change from the patient improves your outcomes and people talk, you make it to the social media. That's the way people talk now, which is the patient's new platform for communication. They don't talk any other way. Sylvia in her course said whereby previously someone had a good experience, they'd go tell a family member or a friend, and what was it, 9 to 12 people would know right away. Now they put it on social media and millions of people know. And millions is not underestimated because it just spreads out. So if they have a bad experience with you, it's either way. This is the way they're talking now. PPS conference was clinical outcomes made me a more reflective therapist. This is a quote out of that same company that gave that presentation. He has several clinics up in Oregon. But one of the therapists said, clinical outcomes made me a more reflective therapist. What am I doing well and where do I need to get better? And this is one of the comments that was made by one of the clinicians when they moved towards individualized outcome studies. All right, we are done.
Yes.
And this one is a long 5-minute break. Just a, okay.
There you go.
I was watching that, I was like, oh, I was getting nervous because I saw her on the flashing. But I didn't, oh, she did? Oh, she did. I know, it was not I am. She's good. She's good. Well, some have a meet me after. Well, why did you guys keep it to last?
Oh. I forgot. Yes, please, personally.
I ain't coming all the way here. I'll be here.
Oh, the other one. Armando 2.0. Very good. Armando 2.0. I had glitches. I had glitches in my software. And that model is 2.0. He's done. And I love it. But I see people do it. Juanita, wake up.
But I told him she'll take him back. She will.
Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness. That's what I call Mario, Planet Fitness. Because he's always staring at himself in the mirror. So he's always doing that. This is me. Looking at me. Looking at you. Looking at me. That's Mario. Planet Fitness.
He has a patience for he's standing behind the bike right now.
Traffic here. If I don't go to the Liberty, it's like Blue Bird here, and it's 8 o'clock. No, I'm from. It's practically from I-10, like almost half of here. That's the only thing, so I make sure I leave from
Coming off the freeway?
Verizon line about 8 o'clock in the morning, 8:30. The line is back to normal. Something all the way over here. But he said could be opening within, I think, the next 2 months. And once that you see that building outside? That's the screen. The building is you know they use Cubans.
Out here, make sure they go. Because they're trying to get one at a time.
Is the time up?
Oh, yeah.
I say ready.
Because this is our last administrative meeting, professional meeting. We're having a compliance meeting in December, but that's only compliance. Now we need to switch our brains to administrative for between now and closing of the year. So my sections is administration. So in accounting, what we are asking is that keep in mind that for the payables, we do payables twice a month, the 15th and the end of the month. So on the 15th is going to be a full payable cycle. So you submit all your invoices, OCs, and Armando, because on December 31st, we're only going to issue the ones that are required, such as rent, utilities, and all those. So please plan ahead, team leaders. We need your help with ordering supplies. Don't wait until December because keep these deadlines in mind. So in November, please look what your supplies you're running low and submit your order right now. We're mid-November, so we can pay them by the December 15th. So when you go back today, you do your inventory.
Only one payable cycle, guys. 15.
Payroll, the last payroll of the year is on December 27th. Then we have Christmas holiday on Wednesday. Please have everything ready for Anna, for our payroll, so we can process, because we need to make sure that you're gonna see that we're gonna be crunching time for that. And we want Christmas as a holiday, everybody. All our employees deserve to be with their families, so please help us there. On the medical insurance, thank you everybody for helping me meet the deadline. But the company has selected Humana. The coverage begins December 1st. You all that have enrolled into Humana are going to receive a new card, and now it's coming from Humana. If for some reason you don't receive your insurance card by December 1st and you already have doctor's appointment, or hopefully you don't get sick, or you need to go to the doctor and you still don't have your insurance card, give me a call or Anna, and we can print for you a temporary card so you can take it. But for sure, it's only, don't call everybody, don't call us. Just wait only if you need your card. So wait for you to get it in the mail. Now for those that are participating with Humana, you also have the option to participate on the health savings account. So I sent an email individually to each of you, because we are switching from Blue Cross Blue Shield to Humana. I need a new health savings form for you to fill out.
Even if it's the same?
Even if it's the same amount. Because the other ones are old, so Humana is not accepting those. We need to put your new information. So please, I send you an email, send you the information. If you elect not to participate, contribute to your health savings account, just send an email, respond to me. That way I don't disturb you anymore. I don't call you anymore. So please, the deadline is next Monday, November 18th, and I will need your forms. On the form, the waiver form, I mentioned vision and dental and life insurances. That's how they send me the form, Humana. But keep in mind that for dental and vision, the open enrollment for EPPTS is until May. So vision and dental is through a separate company, not through Humana. So I just wanted to clarify it to you. So open enrollment happens until May. So if you're interested and you participate and you selected that you want to participate, you will need to wait until May for open enrollment, and it is effective in June 1st. Okay. Questions? No? Okay, so upcoming EPPTS holidays, the board members had approved the next, we are almost here, around the corner. On Thursday, November 28th is Thanksgiving Day. It's a paid holiday. All clinics are closed. On Friday, November 29th, we will be closed. And it's a non-paid holiday. So you can, non-exempt employees can use their PTO. The next one is on December 24th. We will be closing at 12 p.m. All the clinics we get to leave at 12 p.m. and it's a non-paid holiday. On Wednesday the 25th is a Christmas Day, so for full-timers it's a paid holiday. We are closed on Thursday, December 26th. The clinics will open at 9 a.m. And again, it's a non-paid holiday for the hours that we are closed. Like in the business office, we come in at 6:30 in the morning, so we won't need to make up our hours because we will open at 9. On Tuesday, the next week is on Tuesday, December 31st. We will be closing at 2 p.m. So Lita is going to discuss regarding patient care in the next section. Again, it's a non-paid holiday, so we leave at 2 p.m. full-timers, and for those that leave at 4 p.m., you will need to make up your hours. On Wednesday, January 1st, it's New Year's Day. We will be celebrating 2020. And it's a paid holiday. We are off. And then on Thursday, January 2nd, it repeats again. We open at 9 a.m. at 2 p.m.
Ya para
going to briefly go over the year-end closing timeline, just to help for a smooth transition for the year-end. So starting Friday, December the 28th, stragglers will be due before leaving for the day, and that's both professionals and front office. Then we come back on Tuesday, December 24th. Stragglers will also be due that day before leaving for the day. The last patient for that, the last patient for that day will be at 10:30. Sorry, it's missing information. But on the handouts that you all have, patient care, the last patient will be at 10:30 that day. The clinics will close at 12 o'clock. Then Wednesday, December the 25th, the clinics will be closed to celebrate your Christmas. We come back December the 26th on Thursday. Patient care will begin at 9 a.m. Like Sylvia had discussed. And on this day, the stragglers will be worked on by myself and the billing department, so we can have them ready for you for Friday. Come Friday, December the 27th, that'll be normal patient care hours. And the stragglers will be due once again before leaving for the day by both the professionals and the OCs. And the reason we're doing it so often is just to ensure that come that last day of the month, we have everything done and we're not waiting to get those done in case something needs to be fixed or missing prescriptions. So then come the final week of the year, Monday, December the 30th, will be a normal patient care hours. On this day though, charges for dates of service 12/27 will be due by 8 o'clock a.m. Any charges for that Monday, December the 30th will need to be due before leaving for the day, and we also ask that the stragglers do get worked on again on this day. On Tuesday, December the 31st, patient care, the last patient will be scheduled at 11:30. Clinics will close at 2 p.m. and no evaluations unless approved by the clinic director on this day. For charges for dates of service 12/31 from open, so from your first patient till 10 o'clock, are due by 11 o'clock a.m. And then any charges from 10 o'clock a.m. to your last scheduled patient, they are due by 2 o'clock p.m. and the sooner the better. On this day, we do ask that the professionals to notify their OC once their charges are completed, so that way the OC can contact the business office to begin the billing to make sure that everything is in there that we're needing. We do ask that the professionals wait approximately 15 to 20 minutes once they've notified their OC that they're ready, so that the business office has a chance to look at those charges. The business office will then notify, or mainly Sylvia, will notify the clinic once that specific therapist's charges are ready. And the order that they'll be reviewing them in is the way that they're contacted. So if Rudy tells Sylvia first, Rudy's charges will get first, then Amanda, and so on. Then come Wednesday, January the 1st, we're closed, and Thursday, patient care will begin at 9.
How do you follow that? It's incredible. It's a great speaker, right? So, give me a chance and I'll try and kind of get there. I want to just give you some information regarding the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, AHRQ. Looked at national levels of what is the major problem in the healthcare industry. They did a humongous amount of research as to why there were medical errors and what was the #1 medical error throughout the entire medical community, to include physicians, radiology, surgery, rehab, pharmacy. All of those were looked at. And can anybody guess what the #1 medical error was? Communication. A breakdown in communication. And I think that we all can relate to that when it comes to rehab, because if I don't communicate through the flow sheet what I want done for that patient, then we'll break down in that area, and then it becomes a safety issue for that patient. So, having said that, before all this started, and I was privileged to go to a UTEP sponsored course that involved all the universities in Texas. That included UT Austin, Baylor, UTEP, you name it, every university participating in this, and it's called the Team Steps Master Training Program, where they wanted to come together and come up with how could they better communication between the healthcare professionals. Before this started, they had what they called, which was the first one?
Right there. There you go.
Here. They had what they called the two-challenge rule, where it empowered all team members to stop the line if they sensed or discovered an essential safety breach. An example is a physician calls the nurse and tells them, I want to increase this dosage by 2 milligrams. The nurse calls the pharmacy and says, we need to increase the medication by 2 milliliters. So there's a huge safety issue there. And so the two-challenge rule meant when an initial assertive statement is ignored, it is your responsibility to assertively voice concern at least 2 times to ensure that that has been heard. So what could have happened and what's happening is that the pharmacy should have said, did you say 2 milliliters? I said, no, I said 2 milligrams. And so then you say, are you sure that that's what you said? Because I heard you say 2 milliliters. And so that was the two-challenge rule, that you had to assert yourself by repeating it twice. The team member being challenged must acknowledge that the concern has been heard. We weren't doing that. We weren't saying and asserting that, okay, this is what I heard that you said. Is that correct? The third thing is, if the safety issue still hasn't been addressed, they would take a stronger course of action and they would involve a supervisor. Well, by that time, that safety issue had become a problem. And so they said, what can we do to improve that? And so they came up with several things, and one of the things, and I want to teach you this, and I want to carry this over to our stream now, our value stream. We need to open up our communication not only within your clinic, but throughout the company. And so I'm going to show you how to cuss correctly.
Did you say cuss?
I'm sure everybody cusses, right? But I'm going to show you how to cuss correctly. Yes? Fair? Okay. So, cuss stands for I am concerned. I am uncomfortable. And this is a safety issue. In other words, you stop the line. If something happens in your clinic that you don't feel comfortable with, that you're concerned about, and that it's a safety issue, you bring it up to that person and you try and get that resolved within that time frame. Don't let time pass. Let's make communication our number one rule that will make us better therapists and better employees. So, having said that, and this is what Team Steps tried to do, is that they wanted to have the same type of nomenclature throughout the continuum of care, all the way from the physician to the rehab to the department of the pharmacy, so that everybody was cussing the same way. So this is important. Keep this in mind. So they call this a desk script, a constructive approach for managing and resolving conflict. We've all been to different management courses, supervisory courses, and we all hear about their way is the best way. Well, this is what we want to do. This is what we as healthcare professionals should be looking at and concentrating on, is that you want to describe the specific situation or behavior and provide concrete data, not hearsay. I heard this. I saw this person do this. It has to be concrete, first of all. You have to describe that. You express how the situation makes you feel and what your concerns are. For instance, I'll ask Misty, I need for you to increase this patient by 3 pounds because I feel he's ready to progress. Misty might be working with that patient more and say, well, you know what, I'm concerned because we haven't progressed him yet. We haven't even done a pound. Why are we going to 5 pounds or 3 pounds? Whatever the problem might be. And so I'm feeling comfortable doing that. And so me as a supervisor should not say, well, this is what I want you to do. And so you have to follow that step. Instead is, we've described the situation, we express how the situation makes you feel, and you express your concern, and then you suggest other alternatives and seek agreement. For instance, well, you know what, maybe we should try 2 pounds instead of the 5 pounds or the 3 pounds. What do you think? So you've sought that alternative, and you reach an agreement. So the consequences should be stated in terms of impact on established team goals and strive for consensus. Not that I should be right or Misty should be right, but that we arrive at a consensus, and therefore the patient experience is a lot better. The outcomes make you a better therapist, and everybody's happy. So remember, let's go ahead and cuss correctly. All right? Thank you.
All right, whoever bought those little miniature cookies, thank you.
Yeah.
They're delicious. I had two. Did you bring? Oh, they're so good. Okay, so are you doing this?
The right. There you go. Right. There you go.
Am I going the wrong way?
No, you're doing right. Good.
This one?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know why there's not a header. Okay, so I am here to let you all know, for our Christmas holiday this year, we have selected the Greenery. I don't know if y'all are familiar with it. It's in Sunland Park Mall. I actually thought they were closed. They're still open, new owners, and it's delicious. Their food is great. Everything's homemade. Their pastas are homemade. So it's going to be the way, it's just right off of I-10 West in Sunland Park, and you would depart between the old Sears building and Star Western Wear. And there's a main mall entry. Right as you go in there, the restaurant is right there. And we're going to have a private room. So this will take place on Friday, December 6th from 1:30 to 3. And your formal invitations will be emailed, emailed by Monday, 11/18. And I need to have firm RSVPs by 11/29. And OCs, if you could please give me all of your tech email addresses so they can all receive one. And then I'll have you all help me, the OCs, the leads, to encourage everybody to RSVP. Because if we RSVP and somebody doesn't show up, we're going to get charged $8 per person. So if you know of anybody that's going to back out, I need to know firmly by November 29th. Okay. Current blitz that we are doing, I reviewed the top referring physicians. There were about 45 of them, and we're currently giving each of those physicians a bottle of Bordeaux, really good wine. And on these, we've made a personalized tag with our logo on it that says our sincere gratitude and appreciation for the opportunity to partner in patient care. So these are going out on each of the bottles. And we've also had a sticker made which has the same note on it. And I believe you all are going to be using these on your progress notes, is that correct, in 2020? So the OCs will be ordering these for you all to use on your forms as well. Okay, competitors, I wanted to review this list with you all. So our competition is growing daily, and you'll notice here that physical therapy currently has 5 locations here in El Paso, and they are franchised, but there's Far East, which was the old Reaction, West Side, which was Health Masters, Northeast is Health Masters, and I think their Yarborough location, Health Masters. And then Northwest El Paso, that was Spine, not Spine Rehab.
Spine specialist.
Spine Specialist, and they have the Northwest one, which is on Northwestern, and they have one in Las Cruces, and they're supposed to open a 6th location, is what we've been told. Hospitals of Providence, this is huge. So where they went down just to the one New Trevino location, they have 5 locations now. They reopened Remcon, they opened a new one, Trans Mountain, Central by Sierra, the Joe Battle, New Trevino, and Remcon. So they have 5 locations. So that's huge for us, and that's going to be a big impact because all of the EPOSG docs, there are 27 of them, they all got not bought out, but they're now partners of theirs, so they're employed by Tenet. So they're going to be encouraged every day to keep all those patients within the Tenet facilities. So that impact, that relationship building is huge. On that note, when I went to go deliver Dr. Natividad's bottle of wine, I feel bad because I don't like to leave anybody out, but Dr. Jackson wasn't one of our top referring physicians. And I asked Melissa, who he primarily refers to, and she says, oh, and just to your point, Chola, about building relationships, he has a relationship with one of the managers at, Border Therapy. So that's where he's going to send. It's like you go to who you know, where you know. So in 2020, again, the emphasis, it should be all the time, but we really need to move forward to those relationship buildings, the thank you notes, your personalized notes on your progress notes, picking up the phone and calling those doctors, calling their MAs or their mid-level providers. That's huge, and I don't think that I can say enough words to emphasize that, but with all of this competition, these are just basically anybody that has their PT doors open for outpatient PT is a competitor to me and to us. One person taken away from us to serve, that's a competitor. But these again were the main ones. And then we heard through the grapevine, we're not sure yet, that spine and rehab may be OBing a third of the west side. So again, another impact for us. Border Therapy, well, that's just crazy. They have 8 locations. And they have one in Las Cruces already and another one opening in Las Cruces. So I'm not sure that they can go anywhere else in El Paso, but one of the things we also hurts us in referrals is the fact that they're connected in with the El Paso Pain Center right there. I guess it's kind of central, right off the freeway on the gateway. So, they have kind of built in and they have aquatics as well. Duncan McDonald Spectrum Therapy now has 5 locations. And 4 of those locations are connected to either primary or specialty physicians. So again, that's kind of like a built-in referral system right there. It's not to say that they're perfect or that the patients won't deviate here and there to refer somewhere else, but it does benefit them for sure to have those kind of relationships built in. And so in close proximity. Optum, this is another one that has 2 locations. This one opened on the west side here, which has Dr. Johnson's, Dr. Heidemann, and Dr. Klein right on the same floor. But for some reason, they haven't done well. We were told at the West Clinic, so that one may be closing, which is good. But I don't think that one affected us as much as we thought it was. And the East location has downsized
I just heard this weekend that he closed both of them.
completely. So that's good.
He's
So we
selling
take them off the
equipment.
list, yay. Okay, now it'd be great if we could do Border. So, and then Tier 1 has 2 locations. But really, in saying all this, oh no, here's more. So Texas Tech, slash,
Who was that Duncan McDonald character?
he's been around he's a character, but he's been around for how many years?
He's been around for a long time.
Yeah, he's been around for, I don't know, years or years.
She's around for easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because her and I, we came across like a DC today that like Mr. Lemez, my patient, remember that tall 6'5" guy from was it Yugoslavia? Anyways, he ended up I guess going over there to
Duncan?
Yeah. I guess his physician like told him stop going to PT whatever and just go to Dunkin' McDonald. I didn't know that.
Do you know who was it his wife? Or was it, who referred him?
Let's see. It was not his wife. I forget the exact doctor, but I knew that. We knew that.
That's right.
That his wife is
Yeah.
related. Right?
Yeah. So UMC has 4 locations: Central, Northeast, Far West, and East. So that's all new. All of that growth there with UMC, but they're recruiting, just like Tenet's recruiting a lot of physicians under their umbrella, UMC's recruiting a lot of local physicians into their family, right? Misty, you know that firsthand. I'm there, and every time I go, there's new physicians everywhere. And on that point too, Texas Tech in the Trans Mountain campus has put 2 orthos there as well. They have orthos, peds, family, and internal med. So just so you know, it's kind of getting harder with the Tenet Health Network. When I went to distribute to OSA all the
wine and the goodies, the pies. I'm taking pies, by the way. I got an email from their practice manager that says they were very grateful and thankful for all this, but no matter how small the gift, they can't accept it anymore. So that's going to be OSA doctors, EPOSG doctors across the board, but this is my last hurrah for them. So just keep that in mind that I can't go out and give them goodies anymore. Same thing with Texas Tech. They don't even, the Trans Mountain location is the one that's difficult. They don't want anybody in their offices unless they have a vendor ID, which costs us money. But we're too small a company. That's more for like the pharmaceuticals. So I did sneak in and I can give them their folders and stuff until somebody tells me cease and desist. So I still try and do it, you know. You gotta circumvent the authority until they tell me otherwise.
Just put a lab coat on.
What's that? A lab coat. So then we have action therapy, physicians that have their built-in Diaz-Pagan, ortho. Of course, we just mentioned El Paso Pain Management Company has order in theirs. Gonzalez Sandoval, he has his own, but he's pretty generous with us, and I hope that continues. We need to really keep relations with him. Urea on Edgemere, he's also ortho and has his own. And then Dr. Side's ortho group on the west side did open their PT. So they still send us on east, the east location does, but just an FYI. So like I said, everyone that has their doors open is a competitor, but these are really our primary competitors. Nice to know Optum's offer list though. So anyway, so the customer experience and customer service again is very important across the board, and for you all to, like somebody said, you know, in your exchanges on your paperwork, picking up the phone and calling concerns. And, you know, just to add to this, I know we've had a couple of incidents over the last month or so. And, you know, I know we all try and give the highest level of customer service, and we do have a lot of turnover. So for me, and we've talked about this in the leadership meetings, that training is imperative across the board, especially with the turnovers and the techs. But what we need to understand is that a patient's perception is their reality. Especially with pediatric patients, parents are very sensitive to their kids, and I know that. When you want to get something done and done right for your children, you'll go to great lengths to see that happens. But just want to reiterate, to any kind of PR issue like that, to get to me right away so we can nip it in the bud and take care of it, and, you know, apologize for what their experience is, because again, their perception is their reality. You know, we may see things differently that happen. The timelines and the notes for one incident was very important for me to provide to the physician office, and went over that, and we took care of that. And then having a clinic director also call the patient to follow up as well. Those are things that are very impactful. So please bring me in on any incident in your clinic. So that way, the important thing is that I get to the doctor first before they go back to the doctor, so I can explain. Difficult patients, if they're difficult with us, chances are they're going to be difficult at the doctor's office. They're just difficult people all around. Nothing's going to make them happy. But again, that's not for us to say. We have to go back to the doctor's office, and I need to explain that to them. And 9 times out of 10, that's a situation. Let's say, oh yeah, we remember him because, or we remember her because. So it's just important. So on social media, I know social media is huge for today, and I appreciate it. I don't partake in it, but I appreciate it, and I appreciate its importance, especially for promoting people saying, yeah, you all are great, or yeah, you all are horrible. So that being said, social media in 2020, we're going to have a shift, and we want to make sure the branding is consistent via our website, via our Instagram, and via Facebook. So we are looking right now with our website. People, they're looking to hire somebody, and hopefully by the end of the year. So we're going to have a shift, and that person is going to be hired to do specific, all things EPPTS and their other clients. But they'll be directing all of our social media branding. So all the information will be consistent. Everything will be across the board and timely, and it'll be there'll be more consistent updates. So we're going to be shifting that, and I'll let you all know when. So if your clinics have any activities, you all can send me the pictures, and then I'll get it to whoever that new person is going to be. But not until I let you know for sure. So we'll keep it the same right now. But those will, All the social media will link up to our website as well. And these people will also monitor Google and Yelp, any kind of exchange that we're getting out there, so it can be constantly monitored, just in case there's a negative comment, so we can handle that right away. So just information for them. And I think that's it, but that's going to be our new media of communication on the social media. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we have brought it to an end. So, some takeaway, if you wanted to, you know how Rudy says, check it twice? Is that what you said?
2 challenge rules.
Let's go over to some important things. The customer is out here. This is the stream, and we're on this side. It is our job to get this customer to cross the stream and come to us. That's our job. And they are called customers out here. Until they cross the stream, they are not called patients. Until they get here, and we say hello with a bright smile. And they travel throughout the whole process. So we've got an enormous amount of work to do to grow, and more than anything to grow as individuals. So remember that. Remember, tomorrow morning, try calm and centered, hand over heart. And think of 3 things you're grateful for. Gratitude changes the whole mood. There's a lot of studies on it. And then 3 things that you want to accomplish. Even if it means making your bed every morning, which is obvious that I don't, but I'm starting to now. Albert that's an automatic bet. There's a study that if you do your bed in the morning, you're more organized. So whatever it be, accomplish 3 things every day. Make them personal, maybe professional, whatever, but they're not all about work, because we go home in different places. All right, to the last, I don't think we have this last slide. The next meeting, as you all know, is December 6th, like I said, 10th. It is, let's see, West Side is hosting it, so we make all the shifts. They are the ones that do their schedule differently from all the other ones. We then have to travel, you all travel the furthest, so you do it accordingly. If you can open back up, you do it. Bottom line is we need to meet to get our production and business growth going. Just don't lose sight of that. So we'll see each other. There's no homework other than to start researching that. Coming over that book that I gave you, and we'll talk more.
Can I just share one feel-good moment?
Oh, feel good.
Yeah. Something that happened to me at the Westside Clinic is I had a 9-year-old autistic patient come over, and I was evaluating her in the room with the mother present, and she gave me, I said, "Hi, I'm Rudy," and she gave me the most incredible hug I have ever gotten. I shared it with my wife, says, "Wait a minute." But anyway, she then proceeded, hugged me, stood by my side, and then she did this to me. She touched me here, she touched me here, and then she went like this, and she goes, "Who cut your hair there?" So, I want to share that with you.
Let's help HB put everything back. Thank you, HB, for hosting.
Good job.